Which one? Oh, no, there's a Google Doc.
Yeah, I've seen it. Show it.
I, you know, I meant to have slides, but I'm really glad I don't have slides because, as you can see, our it's not working. So, by the way, ladies, don't forget there's a column back there on the side where the door is. There is a banner. Please sign it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We like to this is the one from last year, and so next year we'll have that one over here. And we'll have another banner over there.
Nice.
It's one of those
Are we ready? Are we live? Okay. And it's time. And Tiffany's back. Hi, everybody. How are you? Since it's before 10 p.m., I can't say what marketing is often called by people. So I'm just going to tell you it's really not a four-letter word, even though we often mutter them while we're doing it. So welcome. We're going to talk a lot about marketing and branding and digital media today. My name is Tyra Burton. I'm with the Digital Media Track, and I don't have my spill. Where's the spill? Do we know where it is? I don't know. I can't. Oh, there it is. There's a yellow piece of. Hi, you've all heard this before, but you're going to hear it again. So for what happens with the Digital Media Track is we get a sponsor, and our sponsor is Zakat, and they've been around for about 22 years. And what they do is they help with disaster relief, food distribution, orphan care, and more. They really take care of children throughout the world. They're top rated on Charity Navigator and BBB Wise Giving Alliance, which means their money is actually going to do what it says it's going to do. You can find out more about them at zakat.org. Important for this, and you've heard this, but I'm going to keep it up. Dragon Con Charity. How many of you have given to Dragon Con's Charity Arthritis Foundation? If you haven't, think about it, because this year it's the Arthritis Foundation. And I know that in my family alone, there are 6 people with arthritis, probably including myself. I just haven't gotten it diagnosed yet. But over 60 million adults in the United States have arthritis, and it affects hundreds of thousands of kids. And Dragon Con itself is matching our donations up to $125,000. Last year, we outdid them because we ended up with $272,000 for childhood cancer cure. So we got to do better. So you can use this code to donate right here, right now. And the code over there is actually, how many of you have walked today? Okay, you deserve a medal, and you can get one. It's a virtual 5K, and it has this wonderful medal. It's for the Star Trek track. Next year, we don't want that. Because when you get that medal, when you say, I'm going to walk my virtual 5K that I've walked 70,000 times at Dragon Con, you get to choose your favorite track. And I just want you to know that's digital media. If you're choosing anything else, you must choose digital media, because I want a flaming microphone on that medal badge next year for the virtual 5K. So please take a look. But more importantly for us today is I have a wonderful panel of marketing experts here with me, and they're going to make me look good. I have faith. So Anthony, start us off. Tell us who you are and what your marketing background is.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony Williams. I guess my marketing background really began when I did my MBA. So I have a master's of business administration from Emory. Really, my specialty was in operations and strategy, but I took enough marketing classes. I think that would technically count as a minor in an undergraduate. But anyway.
He's here to fake it.
I'm also one of the co-hosts of the Watchers in the Fourth Dimension podcast, where we were watching our way all the way through Doctor Who from the beginning to wherever it is when we catch up. And I do effectively all of our digital marketing for the show. So that's kind of my practitioner pieces as a hobby.
My name is Corey Applegate. I did minor in business administration when I was an undergrad, but I majored in music because I was 18 and didn't know what else to do. I ended up getting into public relations while I was in the Marine Corps, and when I got out, I started working in merchandise and branding for a Star Wars costume group. I did that for about 10 years, and somewhere in there, I actually got a degree in marketing and sales, and I currently work as the director of merchandise for Jordan Con.
I'm Casey Morris, and I graduated with a degree in radio, television, and film, and I wanted to work in production and found that was a hard field to break into, but thankfully I had all the right skills for digital marketing. So I've been doing that for about 15 years now. I did about 10 years working here in corporate Atlanta, actually. And then the last 4 or 5 years, I have been self-employed and specifically working with small businesses and helping them grow.
Well, what I think is amazingly funny is I was originally a music education major.
I started in music education, and then when I was a junior, they put me in front of third graders, and that was the most terrifying experience I've had in my life. So I changed my major.
Yeah, no, I recently did a thing for high school students. And if you ever want an audience that's going to hate you, high school students,
Yeah.
it will kill your ego in a second. He also, his original degree is not anywhere close to business.
History.
So if you want to talk history, we got our man
my
up here.
My master's is in history.
Love that.
I have
just
the
gonna
most
have a whole liberal
eclectic
arts thing
education
going on.
ever.
So I actually went to Georgia State. So I'm a professor of marketing at Kennesaw State University now. And so that's my street cred. And I do the digital marketing for this track. So if you hate it, don't tell me. I appreciate you all so much. So what I want to start off with is, why do you think marketing is important? Why should people care if they're putting out a podcast, a book, or anything?
I guess without marketing, no one's going to find it.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean,
You're
I think-
never going to get readers or listeners if you don't have at least some basic marketing skills.
It's like you just send it out into the ether, right? And it's just going to stay there.
Yeah, and I actually just talked to, if anybody's seen Tells by Bob Magoo, he talks about a friend of his who the first time he tried to do something with marketing, it just totally flopped. And so now he refuses to. And so his books sell like 3 copies.
Mhm.
You know, so you have to. Bob does a lot of great marketing, but it's his friend. So you have to do something. And I think the place that we start with marketing is actually with branding. And Casey, let's talk with you. What exactly is a brand and how can people start to develop it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of different things. If you think of, say, a business, for example, because again, I'm usually working with businesses, I think, all right, logo, but it's not just like the logo itself, but the colors you're using, the fonts, carrying that style over into your website, right? Then it can also be, say, your voice and tone on your website or in social media. So it ends up being a lot of different things. And it can seem overwhelming if you try to say, like, what is my brand? But just one little thing at a time you work on.
Your brand's like your face.
Mm.
Like, it's what you want people to see when they see your content. So you want things to sort of, I don't want to say match, because match isn't exactly the right word. It's more of you want consistency across your brand, so that when they see see even just one piece, they actually do see the whole. And it's a balancing act. But like in my own experience, we came up with a seal, a logo. As a international nonprofit, a costume group like where I worked is going to have a lot of like those smaller local areas. Well, yeah, that's great. But I don't want that on my stuff. Look at at the international level, because that doesn't work for me. People aren't going at international events. No one's going to recognize like Florida. Well, I'm from Japan. There's no way I'm gonna, they're not going to know, but they are going to know my great big international brand, and they know what it means and they know where to go. So I changed up, so that was something I ended up changing up a lot of, is to make sure that everything was consistent across. Yeah, you can use your individual stuff, and you can do that with your own stuff. Like maybe you do a series, like a mini series kind of thing, and you want to add something extra. That's great, but you always need to keep your big picture in mind, and that's your brand.
Yeah, and I think to kind of just piggyback on the idea of it being your face, I mean, if you think about it, everyone's attention span is incredibly short these days. We all have these, we all have Instagram, we all have, multiple social media. You've got however many streaming platforms you've got. Everyone has about a 5-second attention span. And if your brand does not say enough about what you are trying to market, you're going to miss out on listeners, readers, customers, whatever it is, because you have about 5 seconds for your logo, your website, whatever, to say something and to tell your end user, your customer, what you're all about.
Yeah, and keep it simple.
Oh yeah.
I can't tell you how many billboards I've critiqued in my life.
Oh my god, I hate billboards.
Like,
Yeah.
That logo is confusing. I only figured it out because I'm sitting in a traffic light. I don't otherwise I don't see your billboard that fast. Or I see your billboard, I don't get that time to study it. So if I can't figure out your logo, you're screwed. I can't go to your business. I can't find your website. I can't do anything because I couldn't figure out what your company's name was or what you did. Because sometimes those people put up billboards and it's like, some guy mowing his lawn, but it's actually an ad for a hospital. Like, don't
Because
do
he
that.
mowed over himself.
Exactly. And it makes sense on the hospital ones, especially ones with the ER timers. Like that I could see. But I think there's a paint company near me. I still can't figure out what they're trying to tell me with the billboard.
And I think
Don't do that.
keep it simple is really important. So think about how in one quick image, if people saw it, they would know it was yours. And that can be colors, it can be fonts,
Yep.
it can be logos. Definitely have a logo, I would say. So what we do with the digital track is when I'm creating something, I kind of decide, okay, this is the font family that I'm going to use throughout this entire set of things. So like all of our panelists posts had the same kind of look and feel to them, so that when somebody saw them, not only did they go digital media, they knew it immediately. And our little logo would be slapped down there. Matter of fact, we're working on a new logo. Go to our Discord and vote. But so to me, that keeping it simple, making sure that when people can visually understand what you're doing. So how do people go about kind of to find inspiration on what should their brand be? Do you want to start? Are you scared?
No, I think I can start.
I'm excited for you. I like to check.
So, I mean, speaking from personal experience, right? Like, my practical marketing is for my podcast. So I needed to have something that said, this podcast is about Doctor Who. Please listen to us. But for us, it was very, very simple because there's a set audience out there. A lot of people love Doctor Who. Lots of them are in the room next door for most of the con. But it's, again, it's capturing the imagination and just making sure that kind of, to your point, Tyra, kind of logo, font family, everything kind of aligns with that. And so we use things like fonts from the show, like on the title sequences and stuff like that kind of aligns with where we are in the show. So you can see, oh, that's the end credit font from the Tom Baker era. They must be in Tom Baker. Like, maybe I'm overthinking that and people aren't nearly as nerdy about that kind of thing as I am, but
the
like
ones that are totally excited.
Exactly.
So if you look, can you show your business card for a second? I know a lot of you can't see it, so come up here and see it. But you can immediately know it's Doctor Who when you see it.
And I guess piggybacking off the Doctor Who thing there, always be mindful of where you're going and what you're using and what you're doing. Like Anthony probably wouldn't have gotten permission to use a TARDIS and probably would get in trouble if his podcast blew up and became a really big popular thing, which is why they didn't use one. You don't want to step on toes. You don't want to get into somebody's crosshairs. I worked with a Star Wars group, which means I had to deal with the rules from Lucasfilm, which means that anytime somebody infringed on my IP, once Disney bought Lucasfilm, I wasn't allowed to handle that anymore. I had to find the contact information, get a link to where I saw that infringement, and send it directly to the Disney lawyers. And let me tell you, the last thing you ever want to happen in your life is for a Disney lawyer to show up in your inbox.
And just very quickly to piggyback on IP, I think you have to know if you're doing something like Star Wars or Doctor Who or Star Trek or what have you, you have to understand how aggressively the company that owns that IP protects it. BBC, they're pretty liberal, but there was a big kerfuffle a few years ago around Star Trek fan films, and Paramount went after some fans. So, kind of know who you're working with and what you can and can't get away with.
Lucasfilm and Disney will crush anyone who infringes on their IP and anyone who could potentially make them look bad. I have seen them destroy costume groups who set out with not so great intentions.
They go after teachers for their bulletin boards.
That's
so,
crazy.
They went after a children's hospital once and that ended badly for them.
Okay, so
please make it
no,
lighter.
so
please.
in my head, I've got like a list because I'm working with a lot of, a lot of different clients, getting them started out and everything like that. So we go through the branding process together. And one website I love a lot, it's called coolers.co. So like colors, that's what they're trying to do, but it's call it coolers.co. So you can build like brand kits, like colors, right? You can just pick any color, see how the palettes work together. Love doing that with people. So that's a really great place to get inspiration. They also have fonts on there as well. So, you might not know what fonts you want, but you look through there, and generally the fonts on there are going to be ones that you can use, because then there are some fonts out there. Like if you just do a search for fonts and you find a font, it might not be licensable, or you have to pay for it. Like if you're going to use it for marketing in any way, you might have to pay to use that font. So those are some I go to on a regular basis. Also Canva, they have a brand kit where you can add your logos, your colors, your font sizes, like the whole thing. So that makes it really easy when you're trying to design stuff for your business or your content, whether it's social media, YouTube thumbnails, whatever it may be.
Yeah, we use the brand kit on Canva for the digital media track to try to keep us on point. So I want to talk a little bit about, so we kind of have an idea, I hope, of what brand is. And I want to move into how do you make sure people are following what you want them to. So for me, I use a lot of style guides, but I'm interested in what do you use to make sure other people that are helping you create content, keeping them on target, what are you doing, or what do you include in your style guides? And Casey, do you want to start us off?
Oh yeah, that's fine. I haven't been creating many of those. I'm working with one client now where we're actually kind of coming up with it on our own, because it's like a new app that was launched recently. So we're just kind of like, and they've got like a lot of legalese and stuff like that. So it's like, don't say this, or, that kind of thing. You can say this, but you have to say it in this context. So we're just using Google Docs because we're, different parts of the country, right? But just putting that together. I've worked with other businesses where they very clearly, had a style guide of, we're abbreviating this word this way every time, or, don't use, I don't know, whatever words they wanted, right? So yeah, it's different for everyone, right? A lot of times I am like working like either alone or directly with the business. So I don't come across that as often anymore.
I mostly work in merchandise, so I don't really have to worry about style guides beyond, here are our colors, here's our font, this is our official logo, don't use this one, that kind of stuff.
My university has a 20-page document.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, I've never had to work with one that's longer than like
And
2.
if you have a question, you can, or if you want to shout it out, I'll say it.
I was just going to say, style guides can get in depth if you want. Discord is a great example of a style guide.
Yeah, no, style guides can be everything from just really simple colors and fonts to your tagline. I encourage you to have a tagline and have in your brain like that one sentence that's about what you do or what your podcast is about or your book. And that can help you in terms of that style guide. So what type, if we're thinking of us going out there and marketing, we kind of have an idea of our brand. We know what it should look like and feel like. How do we decide where to place ourselves in that digital space that we lovingly call social media or any other place in digital? Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it comes down to you have to understand your market segment, right? Who are you marketing to, and where can you mostly find them? If you're looking to market to people who are 60 plus, you're not finding them on TikTok for the most part, right? You go to Facebook. If you're trying to get a broader audience, you might go to multiple platforms, but I think it's understanding where your audience is the key there. And then from there, it's what does your content look like? What's your voice on social media? A lot of people who read what I put out for the podcast say it actually sounds a lot like how I speak. Particularly friends who've known me for a long time, they read them like, oh yeah, that's definitely your voice. So I think it's, again, making it and writing it, recording it, however you're getting that message out there in kind of a way that resonates with your audience, and knowing your audience is the first thing you have to do.
There are also a lot of really good analytics out there that'll tell you, here are the age groups that really like this social media platform, and within that platform, here are, we'll break it down even further. Like I think when I was doing some research, we're talking about a long time ago. Anyway, it was mostly men using Twitter, and but we were finding more women on Facebook, but anybody in the 18 to 24 range, they were all on Instagram. Like,
Yep.
so we had to make sure, like if I want to target all these people, now I have to narrow down even further. So do I want to tailor per social media platform? Because that's going to take forever. Or do I try to go middle of the road on my content? Or do I decide that, well, I think my target is going to be this age group. So I'm going to focus more of my attention on this platform rather than the others.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how much time you have to invest.
Exactly. Like I always tell people, start your strategy with one social media platform, whichever one's going to be best for your content, your business, your target audience. Looking that up to see who that is. If you don't know, well, it just takes more time to think about it, I guess, and so you can figure out that demographic or if it is broad. But picking just one platform and then you can go into another one from there. I mean, I had a client that they thought they really wanted a TikTok account. And I said, I agree, video content will be great for you guys, but most of your audience is 60, 65 plus. And so I did the research and it turns out there are a lot of people like 50 and up that are on YouTube now watching it.
Yep.
And like a lot. So that's actually a really good one for pretty much all demographics at this point.
Yeah, and because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world after Google, and Google owns both,
Yeah.
which should scare all of us, by the way. So it means that you got to know how Google does their search, but absolutely with YouTube because of that. That's where people go to find information. I think the pandemic kind of pushed us all there to make bread and learn how to cut our hair.
And then just taking that further, you look at trends in things like British TV, and people aren't tuning in to TV anymore in Britain. I can't say what it is in America, because a lot of kids, a lot of younger people are now mostly watching YouTube instead of traditional television. So there's been this huge shift. So yeah, definitely don't underestimate YouTube.
Right. And I think we've talked a little bit about know your audience. That is super important with whatever you're doing. Understanding your target audience really helps you develop your content and what your style looks like so it appeals to them, as well as the platforms you choose. So one thing I want to discuss real fast is websites, and if you see them as being something that's important for somebody to have, and why, if they're, with their product or their brand.
Yeah, so we don't actually have a specific website for Watches in the Fourth Dimension. We have the hosting through Podbean. That's the service we use to host our podcast. And then we have a Facebook page, an Instagram page. And I often forget that we have a Twitter page because it's the one thing I don't run. My co-host Riley, who's sitting over there, actually runs our Twitter, because I will be honest and say I don't really like or understand Twitter. I'd say I don't understand it because I don't want to. So I hand that one off. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to keep trying to get you to believe. Anyway, move on.
So my sister is a small farmer. She's got about 5 acres in Pennsylvania, and she has a farm stand. They sell vegetables in the summertime. They sell flowers in the spring. They sell beef year round because they raise cows and chickens. They sell chickens. They have eggs all the time. So for my sister, the easiest thing for her to do was to just start up her Facebook page and get it going with people, like, sharing it in local groups and that kind of thing. And that worked for a while. But then she found out that during the pandemic, people found that cuddling cows was a thing for reducing stress. Well, my sister, they all hand train all their cows because they show them. So they have all these cows that just lays around all day and eat thousands of dollars of food all year long. And they're not afraid. They have no problems with people. So now I think every Saturday for like 4 hours, she sets up 30-minute time slots for people to come and cuddle with her cows. But that became something that she couldn't handle on market. You can't just do that through Facebook. So we built her website. We added in an online store because she's starting to get an in-person store going at the same time. So like her business expanded, and that was when we decided to grow her presence online, because it was natural growth for what they're doing. So you don't have to have a website, but if things are going to get a little too complicated to be running through social media, that's when you need to spring for the site.
Yeah. Or alternatively, if you don't have the time to invest in social media and you just need an online presence, a website's the way to go. All right. I have a lot of business owners that say, hey, I think I want to do social media advertising. And I'll say, do you have any social media accounts? Do you have any time or the budget to invest in this? And typically the answer is no. However, a nice clean website that's built in a way that you can find what you need, contact the business, get those leads. That's a great starting point for a lot of people. And then you have the option for, say, Google advertising, right? So it's like if you have social media, you go social media advertising to grow. If you have a website or you don't have a website, you get a website and then do the Google advertising, while you're building up your SEO and everything else.
So, and I'm going to tell you, get a website. And the reason is it's the only thing online that you own. So if you're on Facebook and you do something, you don't even know you did something naughty. Like you have no idea why they've banned you. You're screwed because that was the only place they could find you. But if you have a website, at least when people go, where the heck did Kim go? Kim must have gotten banned. Let me go check her website. At least it's a way to get there. It's also a way to get a newsletter built up, but it gives people a central hub that if you get shadow banned on TikTok and that was your big channel, they then know that, hey, I should go look for Stoner Gump, who is our guest this year of the track. I can go look for him on his webpage. So it gives people a place that you own and can control. So for me, that's why it's important. And it also is a great place just to kind of hone that branding. Now, I want to talk. If any of you have questions, please feel free to start lining up at any time. We will take them. So if you've got branding questions for your own stuff or just marketing in general. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to ask if there's any tools that you guys use that you think would make people's lives easier when they're doing their marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I already did a shout out for Canva, and it's funny. I was initially opposed to Canva because I'm an old school Photoshop person, right? But with working with teams remotely, it's so easy to just say, like, here's the design file that I'm working on. Tyra, you and I put
That's
that
true.
graphic just back and forth, just making a few little changes. It's so much easier to just like duplicate the design and show you what I'm thinking versus like, design in Photoshop and then export it, send it back to you. So that's one of my favorites. And they, especially with the pro account, and no, I'm not sponsored by Canva, by the way.
We'd like them to sponsor the track.
Yeah. They have like stock photos in there and animations. So, you can make GIFs. And yes, I say GIFs. Are we going to argue about this? Anyway.
No, I don't care.
No, we're not
Again,
arguing.
again, old school. All right. So, make GIFs, turn them into video files, slideshows. There's all kinds of different templates. If you're not a designer, if you're just looking for an easy way to get content created, there's also an AI tool that will generate a whole bunch of content for you. And then you can go back in and tweak it and change it. So that's it just makes my life a lot easier. So that's one I use a lot.
Sounds like I need to use it more often.
You got any?
Not really, no.
For my images and so on that we use, I use GIMP, which is a free photo editing tool similar to Photoshop.
Mhm.
What did you say the name was?
GIMP.
And I'm rather embarrassed to admit that in the early days I used Paint. So
You've come a long way since then.
I have.
So I want to back up and say Canva is great. You can also use it to schedule your social media. It has a scheduling tool within it. If your primary platforms are Instagram and Facebook, I strongly encourage you to look at MetaSuite. It is the best product that Facebook has put out for managing your pages and your profiles. If you're a business or if you're a creator, and that is what we manage everything on the track on. So if you have any questions about MetaSuite, I'm your girl because I've used it way too much lately.
And just to add to that, all of the analytics that you get on MetaSuite are
Yes.
amazing. You can really
Yes.
see what your reach is and understand who you're getting out there to.
And they'll suggest times for you to post. And you mentioned surveys that have data for who's at which channel. There's the Pew, PEW, social media research study. If you Google that, they update it about every 18 months, and they'll have a really good idea of who's on which channel and where those young people are moving. So I've got people. What's your question?
It wasn't a question. So,
Oh, good.
I'm in college for like art and design, And big things that they highly recommend to be used is for fonts. There's 1001 fonts.
Yes.
So you can filter by free for commercial use. And then for like, if you're trying to find like a theme song or logo, there's Pixabay, where they also have free for commercial use fonts.
So
Excellent.
what she suggested was 1001 fonts where you can look for ones that are free to use commercially, and Pixabay where you can look for images and songs. Canva will also have that. There's another website called Unsplash,
Mhm.
which has an amazing amount of a really solid Creative Commons photography.
I will say that my artistic skills are lacking badly. So I hire graphic designers.
Mhm.
They'll cost, and when they tell you how much it costs, they're serious, because there is going to be a lot of work that goes into your logo or whatever it is you hire them for. Just smile and accept the hit to your wallet. Don't fight with them on the price. They know what they're talking about, and they will deliver excellent content for you. I have only ever worked with graphic designers, and I love them. And the best thing about graphic designers is that they actually want you to be honest. They want you to tell them when it's just not hitting right, and they are not going to take it personally. So you can say, that color is really not working for me, or do you think you can move this? It doesn't matter what you tell them. They'll say, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And they'll come back 10 minutes later with your updated thing or whatever. And that is how the process will go. And they are amazing people. So pay them because they're worth it if you can't do it yourself.
Yeah, and look at their body of work first to make sure they jive with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also say if you need theme music, see if you can find an indie musician. Scott Moore, who's on our track, did all my music for my podcast, and I paid him for it, and it wasn't outrageously expensive. But now I don't have to worry about copyright. Let's have a question from the audience.
Hi, so I'm a software engineer, and over the last 3 years or so, I've been, starting projects, getting through the kind of a prototype stage, and just kind of like, well, this isn't going to work or whatever. But so my question is really, when is a good time to like start marketing something when you don't really know, like, if it's an actual product that's gonna, continue?
Anybody want to go first?
Well, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind is just like Kickstarter. You see things a lot of times. You build a Kickstarter page and a fundraiser, start teasing things, getting people interested. I don't know if I'd go much further than that, but just having something out there, having the date on there that shows that, this is your idea and that you came up with it. But typically I would say wait until you have a product to market, because you want to be able to hit the ground running. You don't want anything to slow you down. That's a good question.
So I'm gonna tell a story again that I told last night. It's about Sherilyn Kenyon, and before she was published, she actually built a website that teased the book that was coming out a year further down the line. So it's okay to go ahead and start that web presence that actually is about you, talking about the creative process and how you're working on things without giving up stuff that might take away a patent or trademark or something like that. But that gets people excited and interested in you before you even have the product, so that you start to build that base so that when you do, you can go live. Because something like a Kickstarter, to do it right, you've got about a 5 to 6 month planning time to really have the base to be able to kick it off. So you can do that by having you be the brand and your creative process being a part of that.
All right, so I've got kind of a two-parter. One, how much would you say color psychology plays into the decisions that you make with the visual aspect of your branding? And can you speak to any equivalent to that when it comes to things like font selection or other visual aspects?
So it's funny. I actually was arguing with my brother when I was picking my colors, and I'll leave some of these up. But I wanted this teal. I like teal. Imagine that. And he was like, teal is sad. People are not going to like it. It'll bring people down. He said, you really should use like a brighter color, like a turquoise. It's like, I like turquoise, but I'm sorry, that's not me, and my name is Seaworthy, SEE. So it's kind of like a sea green, a teal, so I felt very strongly about it. And I said, you know what, I'm going for it. And he finally said, you know what, it looks good. So, I would say, if you really want something, if you feel strongly connected with something as part of your brand, I wouldn't worry about the psychology as much. You can always look that up and kind of understand that. And then internationally, right, different colors might mean different things to different cultures, but it's something to consider. But I wouldn't let it rule your decisions.
Yeah, I do think it's important though. I mean, knowing your market and finding something that's going to resonate with them, even from the aspects of colors and fonts and so on and so forth, it does have an impact. I mean, if I'd used Comic Sans on all my stuff, no one's going to take that seriously.
We
right?
would laugh at you. Yes.
So, that's not to say it's not at all important, but I think the point of it's not necessarily going to translate internationally is an important one, right? Because that really does speak to understanding your audience and understanding where you're targeting. So, yeah, I mean, psychology and marketing in general just really go hand in hand.
One other thing I just thought of, I might jump in again. With the fonts, guys, cursive, it's, a lot of people not being taught it anymore these days. So that's something I consider too, is I really try to be very careful if I'm using a script, if I pick a script, I want one that doesn't look too scripty, right? Just realizing that, less and less people are reading cursive these days.
I actually asked my students if they could read my cursive writing. They still can, for the most part. Most of it's because I'm a professor and I can't write. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
As far as colors, I think the only thing I've ever really used the colors for is to try to. It goes into the design process of what message are we sending. So when we did an event in New Orleans, we went with gold, green, purple, those colors.
Yeah.
But we did when Celebration was in Anaheim, for that one we went with palm trees, and we had a surfer on there, and we used a lot of like kind of muted colors to go with that California vibe kind of thing. One year we went with an 80s look for something.
Ooh.
Like, so we choose I tend to choose colors based on, what kind of overall look are we trying to throw out there. But then again, I work a lot in merchandise, and that with merchandise you have to roll over pretty quickly, otherwise you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
We could probably do a whole panel on merchandise alone.
No, it's true. For me, it's amazing. I use teal for one of my go arounds, a little bit lighter than yours, but pink is my thing, and I just embraced it. I'm a gamer. I'm a girl gamer. Screw it. I'm going to be pink. I got pink hair. So part of it is just understanding what goes with that. That means somebody's going to think I'm a girly girl. Guess what? That's a pretty safe assumption. I'm okay with that. So just realize what goes with it. And I also agree. I think that figuring out what the feel is. So if you looked at the Paris Olympic flame, there's a Parisian lady in it. So I think sometimes you can be very sneaky with what you do to kind of convey that image. And that was one of my favorite ones recently that I've seen, that I was like, oh, there's a girl in that flame.
I
She
really
looks
like
very Parisian.
I like the Toblerone bear
Oh, yes.
in the mountain.
I like Toby. Next up.
Hi.
Yeah, the bear in the
So
mountain.
when it comes to your first marketing campaign and you don't necessarily have a customer acquisition cost or CAC for those not in the business,
Ooh, nice.
how do you establish budget and or what metrics do you need initially to create said budget?
Do you have a specific platform in mind for advertising?
For me personally, it's LinkedIn for business to business. However, given that the panel is likely more B2C, you are welcome to go with that.
Yeah. So I'm about to start doing some more LinkedIn advertising. It's been a few years since I've done it, but I had noticed that it was a higher cost per result on that platform. But the great thing about that platform, especially for B2B, is that you can say, hey, I'm targeting CEOs, presidents, owners, for example, or I'm targeting people in the telecom industry or et cetera. Like, that's the great thing about it. It makes it a little easier to target. But I work with small businesses with advertising, and I usually tell them $300 minimum a month for the platform, $1 a day, essentially. Might not seem like a lot. And for LinkedIn, I would say probably for 400, 500 probably,
Mhm.
just to give you a little bit more. But and if you can and you have the budget to do different campaign types all at once, so you're going to have like your high, the one that's great for your business, like the campaign goal, whether it's leads or app installs or whatever else, that's going to be more expensive than say like engagement or like a follows campaign, but that's going to build up your audience on those platforms. So if you have a little bit more budget to spend on that, that's just going to make your ROI that much better. And also keeping in mind that that is what goes directly to the platform, directly to LinkedIn or whoever, not to your marketer, if you're paying someone or you're doing it yourself.
So I'm just going to say that you have to have awareness first. If people don't know you exist, they can't buy your stuff. So sometimes you can do that organically, but you have to really work at organic to get traction. And you have to know what the platforms are looking for. And you have to be exceedingly consistent at it. You will not go viral. Viral is something that happens. So don't try to plan on going viral or try to go viral. And when you go viral, be excited and happy and be ready to capitalize on it. But you have to build awareness first. So sometimes that's a lot of times the campaign. If you're going to invest some money, try there. I will tell you that if you're running a Facebook campaign or an Instagram campaign, the longer you run it, the better they get at delivering for you. Because the algorithm for Facebook and Instagram learns who's clicking on your stuff. So the longer you run that paid campaign, the better they get to figure out, oh, yeah, Bob we thought was right, but really it's Tom. And they'll figure that out over time. And they do that even for large size businesses. And the budget, I think those were great starting points. And she's absolutely right about LinkedIn. It's more expensive, but if you're B2B, it can be a good treasure trove.
Just a note on going viral. If it does happen, there's sometimes no rhyme or reason. We have one episode of the podcast that has 4 times as many listens as the next highest one. And we have not yet been able to figure out exactly why. We have theories, but who knows?
But just make sure that you have, like, if you ever go viral, that you have that place that people can be sent to get whatever it is that you want them to find out about, you know? So like if you're an author and you're on TikTok, on Book Talk, and you're creating videos and one of them finally goes viral, you want to make sure that on that TikTok bio, it has a link for them to go buy your books so they can find you. Have that set up and ready. If I'm like promoting a particular property, like let's say I'm doing Geek Meet Social, my podcast, and I haven't actually had an episode in a couple of weeks, I don't want pray and I don't go viral right then because I don't have the stuff in place. So just be ready, even if it's just having where they go to find out more about you. Be ready for that. Because that's the horrible thing. You go viral and you're like, you panic and you have tons of anxiety. And then you're like, how do I do it again? Don't worry about doing it again. Do the best you can with the viral that's coming in. Capture as many of them as you can so that hopefully they'll follow you, they buy your stuff, or at least get more engaged and know you're out there. That was a lot. Okay, deep breath. Next question.
Hi, you kind of just answered my question a little bit. I was going to ask, with content creating, how much of it is like marketing, exposure, consistency, where it's going viral, that one viral moment, and now everybody knows you. So you answered it a little bit.
Now let's talk about it. Let's talk a little bit about content creation and how we handle it.
Yeah, I mean, for my purposes, my content or our content is our product. So, it's a podcast. So the first thing we thought about when we were sitting down and planning was how often do we want to release episodes? We eventually settled on every 2 weeks because we do a lot of production work on the back end to make it sound as good as possible, to edit it really tightly, because everyone has vocal tics. You don't realize that until you start podcasting. And then you listen to your own voice and you realize how many times you say or ah, and you're like, oh, well, to make this sound polished, I should maybe cut those out. Maybe. And there we go. I just ummed.
So
and then once you have that kind of product, and for us, again, putting it out every 2 weeks, what does our campaign for each episode look like? What are we putting on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram to promote that we have a new episode out? So how do we then support the product and really push it for a couple of weeks? until we move on to the next one and then start the cycle all over again.
Yeah, I mean that's the ideal situation, right? Is that you've got a product like that. I mean your product is content. But if you're a business, it's like, how do you post on social media 2 to 3 times a week? What do you even come up with? So it's different for every business, right? But I like to ascribe to the rule. It's like, yes, you want to market yourself and your business, but for your organic posts, not your ads, you don't want it to seem like an ad, right? It needs to be organic. It needs to feel engaging in some way. So anytime you can, use photos of people. Stock photos, fine. If it's actually you, your business, whoever's working on the business, the product, that's going to do well, because guess what? That's how we all use social media. We post pictures of ourselves and our friends. That's a great thing. Alternating between video content, photos, links every now and then, right? When the algorithm doesn't deprioritize them, which
Put
can
them in
happen.
comments.
Yeah, link. Yeah. So who is it that's doing this right now? They've been coming up in my feed a lot. It's one of those. I don't necessarily want to say clickbait, right? But one of those big content providers, and they have been doing really. Oh, is it Lad Bible? I think it's Lad Bible. Photos that pop up, like a graphic that basically kind of tells you what this article is going to be about, and then link in the comments. It's not pinned. It's just that is the top comment, because everyone's clicking on that, because now that's the content there. So that's a great way around that. But we were talking about content. Sorry, I just hey, that's content. So planning out your content, coming up with a content strategy, saying, all right, this many times a week I'm going to post this, this many times a week I'm going to post that. Build out your social media calendar for the month, pre-schedule it. Like on Facebook, you could just schedule it right on out there. And same with Instagram.
I sell stuff and then ask other people to schedule those things for me.
That's awesome. So yeah, I'm going to say consistency. Cats and dogs. Let's just be honest. They grab attention. They're cute. And I batch process a lot of stuff because I have ADHD. So for me, it's better if I'm focused and hyper focused for an hour or two, I can batch process a bunch of stuff that I then schedule. And also I want to bring up search engine optimization, particularly keywords. In all the social media profiles right now and platforms, keywords are important. So you know how we've been using hashtags to say where things should be about? Now you'll see me use hashtag DragonCon Digital Media Track, but you'll also see me spell out digital media track in the copy. And the reason is because all the search engines, particularly those involved with Meta and YouTube, are scrubbing that copy for keywords to deliver and search for people. So that becomes very important in Facebook and Instagram as we search more there. And it's particularly important in YouTube. And in YouTube, you have an amazing amount of words that is in the description of your video. Make sure that you're spelling things out. Make sure you're including links there, because all of those things helps YouTube figure out who they should deliver that video to. And I would say if there's anything that's clickbaity these days, it's YouTube thumbnails.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch a lot of reaction videos on YouTube, there are like classic YouTube react faces. That's
Yeah.
all like, right? Also, Tyra, sorry,
No.
bit of marketing in real time. Riley, I'm going to need some photos of your cats with Doctor Who things, please. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, and also in real time, somebody get me a picture of this panel because I can't get any up. Thank you. Okay. Come on up. Next on the Not Price is Right.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm short
Um,
too.
So I'm Vietnamese. I'm not American, so my English is not as good. So
okay.
please be gentle with me about my language. So I have several products in a different categories. I just moved to the state like 9 months ago, and I know that I can buy product bulk in Vietnam and sell it here. So my product is like not the same product. So I think I've developed different logos for different products and my company logo too. But it seemed like it's quite a lot to do all of them, like my products logo and as you say, that we need to do everything consistency, like do logo, font stuff for all that in consistency.
Mhm.
So if I should I focus on my company information, or should I focus on each product at first to do like marketing? Does it make sense?
So Corey, who's
Yeah.
all about merchandising,
Yes.
this is your question.
Focus on your store, your brand, your company.
Yeah.
Because if you get your name out there as somebody who can provide things that are unusual or different, you I want to it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like there, so for a while there, it was really popular. There were these companies where they had like 1 or 2 products and it would be available for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you'd buy it if you could, you know, and when it was sold out, it sold out. So if you got there at the end of the day, you were probably not getting it. And they had it for all sorts of things, but everybody knew the name of the company.
Yep.
And that they could go to that company and find something different every day. So I think in your case, you want to market your company
Oh,
as a place that you can go to get different things at different times. Like make it, you know, play up the fact that you can kind of surprise people
Yeah.
with what you can get your hands on.
oh,
Does that make sense? Okay.
yes.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that will be consistent as your products change, because
Yeah.
you're probably what you can get at a certain time, and that fits that perfectly.
So my second question is that in Vietnam, short videos is very popular for Vietnamese. We use Facebook Reels, YouTube Short, or Instagram. TikTok is very popular over there. I'm not sure if the same market here in the States.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And get on TikTok Shop.
And great job with your English, by the way.
Yes, that was
yes,
awesome.
it was very good.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the panel. As a visual designer, I love all the aspects of visual identity and putting that all together. I think where is harder is as a studio owner is really defining the brand voice. I did work with a content strategist earlier this year, and we did analyze content, and she's saying, you know, it's a little bit here, it's a little bit there. What tools do you use to help define brand voice? Because I think it can be done somewhat intuitively, but I think it really helps to actually document it, to have that to go back to, and especially if you ever add members to your team,
Mhm.
you know, you get to a point where everything needs to be written down and they don't automatically just get it. So that would be one thing. And then also, what do you like in terms of for content calendar?
What do we use for
Yeah,
one?
yeah, because you know, if you're doing it on the fly is
Crazy.
hard.
Yeah.
Yes. So
So-
yeah, those are my two.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I mean, I can. I guess mine might be kind of surprising, but again, you know, going back to content strategy and stuff, just a Google Doc. You know, it's just so easy to work with people. It's updated. You can, you know, highlight comments, edit mode, however, right? It's just a great way to collaborate, especially in remote environments. For a content calendar, you know, you can either do, again, with Google Calendar, shared calendar. I actually like putting out, if I'm writing social media content for a client, I put it all out in an Excel spreadsheet with the way I'm going to post it, the order I'm going to post it in, the image file, drop that in, or a video file, so they can just look at all of it and have a little checkbox for approve. But that's a pretty easy way, because then I can just copy and paste it into Meta or wherever it's going to go.
So how can you better illustrate what the brand voice is? So I've done a lot of this recently with some people, and what I always fall back on is telling the story. Because if I can write the story of the brand or of the person, then that helps me fall into that voice. So that's everything from What kind of colors are you in? What kind of adjectives do you want to use? What do you want people to feel like? If they walked into the room, what does that room feel like? So, like, if you walked into my room, it's going to have cats and books and comfy places to sit and a lot of pink. And maybe a husband every now and then, and a dog who's crazy. But getting kind of that visual imagery. And I found that actually, as strange as they are, mood boards can help with that as well, because again, it helps people visualize it. Also, finding sounds. I have a friend that uses playlists to help, but that's instrumental playlist usually, that helps to kind of convey what does it feel like. Because we know that like Chick-fil-A and Wendy's are great examples, because Wendy is sassy as you know what, right? Chick-fil-A, not so sassy. Chick-fil-A tried to be sassy and people were like,
Yeah.
no, you cannot be sassy. That's not your job. Wendy is supposed to be sassy. So even understanding at that level. So for me, it's about telling the story. I don't know if I'm just staring at you all. That's
Yeah,
my job.
So
Yeah.
not so much to address the question, but you mentioned Chick-fil-A, and I just want to point out, when you think about their branding and their marketing, it's a lot darker than you realize, because you have cows that are basically begging not to be eaten. That is really dark.
That is true.
But they also made it so that you see cows and think about chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Also brilliant.
We
Yes.
forgot to answer the question of what we do with content calendars. My answer would be Asana.
That was the one when I was saying the Google
Yeah.
and Excel.
Anthony, we have 5? 5. Okay.
Other
So we get other Anthony. Go
I am-
for it.
I'm also named Anthony, but
We're taking over.
Yeah.
Yay, Sinistry.
But my question is, for those of us who are just getting our feet wet into branding and marketing, do you have any sources like online or videos or books that we could look at, do some more research and get a better understanding of this? Thank you.
That's a great question. Does anybody have one off the top of their minds?
No, but I actually searched. I needed to find a specific thing about SEO. And so I searched SEO in Kindle Unlimited and I found a free book in there that's all about SEO. And it actually is amazing. And I was keeping it as like a back burner thing. And my Kindle's right here. So I'll see if I can find it.
There's a ton of stuff on YouTube. I mean,
Mhm.
So what I'll do is at So what I'll do is at tyraburton.com, there'll be a link that will say marketing is a 4-letter word. Click on it. I've taken notes while we've been talking. So some of the apps and things that we've mentioned will be on there as well as contact information for all of us. So check there. I'll get their suggestions and put them there.
And very quickly, if you want to learn about the psychology of marketing, there is a book. It is out of print called The Behavioral Aspects of Marketing. This is written by Dr. Keith Williams, who I happen to be related to. So
His dad. So let's see how many we can fire out of here in the 3 minutes I have left. Go for it.
Quickly. So I work in digital marketing and social media specifically for State University. And I will say that going viral is as equally terrifying as it is exciting.
Yes.
Having done it. And when I've done it, it's always been a perfect storm of capturing a wave of what I affectionately call trickle down trends and how they travel from platform to platform. Do you have any thoughts and or advice onto how to best capture and when to best jump onto this trickle down trend?
I am not a
Flow.
trend girl, so I'm hoping somebody here has something.
I always feel like it's kind of luck of the dice.
It really-
So my alma mater was the University of Reading in England, and they have what's known as the Museum of Rural Life, and that went viral a few years ago because they posted a picture of an enormous ram with the caption, "Look at this absolute unit." And it was just a question of the right time with that kind of British bantery terminology and finding a gigantic animal, and it was entirely luck. It was fast thinking. So you've got to be on the ball, but otherwise, yeah, I'm with Tyra, not.
Yeah, never
No
know.
further advice.
So we've got 2 minutes, so we're gonna do one question, but we'll be up here for a few minutes afterwards. So shoot your question.
Real quick. So do any of you have tools for like automating the cross posting between platforms? You just manually copy it over every time?
I use MetaSuite.
Okay.
Yeah.
MetaSuite's my big one.
I'm really bad. I do manually copy over between Facebook and Instagram because I don't like how it translates from one to other.
You can check. We'll talk.
I know there are a lot of efficiencies I could make, and I need to be better about that.
Hootsuite's my favorite. If you've got a cross post from, say, Facebook, Instagram, and also LinkedIn, for example, there's no way to schedule LinkedIn posts on LinkedIn, at least not that I've seen lately, right? So, you definitely want to be able to schedule those out, and Hootsuite's my favorite for that. It's also pretty reasonable compared to all the other ones out there, and they keep up the APIs pretty well so that they talk to each other. You can edit your photos in Hootsuite to post, right?
If you're looking for a free platform, Hootsuite's free went away basically. So
Yep.
Buffer has the best free one out there. If you're an Instagram person, Later is made specifically for that. And they actually have a free online conference every year. So just checking with our panel. Let's tell everybody where you can find yourselves because we're at 2:00 and I've only got a minute. So tell people where they can find you and where you're going to be next at DragonCon. Start.
Oh, I don't know where I'm going next. Got my friend here for the first time at con, so I'm gonna let her lead the way.
Hi, friend.
But yeah. So you can find me online at cworthyconsulting.com. That's SEE worthyconsulting.com. Got a link tree. I think that's maybe just Seaworthy Consulting Tribe. I don't remember. You'll find it. There you go.
Based on the customer base that I have, I am a ghost on social media. But if you want to find me, you can find me at merchandise@jordancon.org.
Or at JordanCon.
Or at JordanCon. And then this is actually my last panel for DragonCon. So if you want to find me, you'll have to trip over me somewhere.
So when is JordanCon?
It's the third weekend in April at the Crown Plaza Ravinia.
It's an Atlanta-based con. Check it
Yeah,
out.
it's it's like the Atlanta perimeter, so it's off 285.
And you can find me on the Watchers in the Fourth Dimension podcast, which is available wherever you like to get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, etc., etc. You can also find us on social media, Instagram at Watchers4D, the number 4, and on Facebook, Watchers in the Fourth Dimension. If anyone wants to follow me personally, I am at Englishman in ATL. The 7th.
Wow, he doesn't even tell us names.
Yeah, I mean,
Sylvester McCoy.
Oh,
I'm very weird.
You are weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and one more thing. If anyone forgot all of that, I also have some cards for the podcast up here, so you're welcome to come and grab one at the end.
And I'm Tara Burton, and you can follow me at taraburton.com. I'm Tara Burton everywhere but Twitter. We're on Tara and Burton, but I talk about Swifties and Chiefties because I'm a Chiefs Kingdom girl. The center code right here will take you to the digital media tracks link tree. From there, you can find our Twitch streams, YouTube. Come on our Discord, talk to us more there. And come on up here if you have any questions. And thank you for coming. You were a great audience. And I'm only 2 minutes over.